We're the Con Guys, and this is the Con Guy Show, coming to you straight from the nerdy heart of Hollywood, California.
And this is Jim with theconguy.com.
She's been here with theconguy.com.
Katie here, aka the Con Girl.
Zordon did not want 5 teenagers with attitude.
My name is Derek Sam.
I'm Danae Sams, and that's my brother.
We are your home for news, opinions, and interviews from the world of Comic-Cons and fandoms. Your ultimate insiders for all things con. Merry Christmas week, everybody. So, Spider-Man has conquered the world again. Back in 2002, the original Spider-Man, the one starring Tobey Maguire, was the first movie ever to debut over $100 million on its opening weekend. And now Spider-Man No Way Home exploded on the scene this weekend and racked up the second biggest opening of all time with $253 million domestically. Only one other movie has ever had a bigger opening weekend, and that is Avengers Endgame, directed by John Watts and starring a roster of surprise appearances. Somewhat surprising. No Way Home is currently at 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, but perhaps more importantly, it has a 99% audience score. In other words, a huge majority of the critics love this film, but nearly every single fan who sees it loves it. We here at the Con Guy consider ourselves fans, but tonight we'll also give our review of the film. And you might be surprised to know it's not all love, believe it or not. Although to be fair, it is mostly love. My name is Jim. I'm the editor of theconguy.com and your co-host for tonight's Con Guy Talks Movies Spider-Man No Way Home. We've got our holiday crew this week. Let's introduce ourselves, starting with Jake.
Hey everybody, it's Jake from the Jacoba System coming at you from Columbus, Ohio. I'm excited to talk about this new movie, Spider-Man. You know, the entire series is some of my favorite movies of all time. And this was just a big, build up to this amazing, sorry for the pun, amazing film. So excited to talk about this with you guys.
All right. Up there into the Cheeseman household.
What's up, everybody? This is Cheeseman here, Multiverse Cheeseman, to be a future Spider-Man. Here with Spidey himself, my nephew, Austin. Say hello.
What's up? I'm Austin.
He's part of the Con Kids. We are the Con Guys. So this is a multiverse of podcasts.
All right. Since it's a multiverse podcast,
and we're back on the Con Guy Con Kids crossover.
It's a multiverse podcast and a multiverse introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week, your Christmas week. We just could not let the week go by without. Oh, we just got to say Ben's not here, but Bloodgood is here. Hey, Kat, good to see you. We couldn't let the week go by without talking about perhaps the biggest cultural event of the season, if not the year. We are coming to the end. Well, not to the end. We're right smack in the middle, but we've been 2 years in this pandemic that has made it very difficult for any movies to find any footing. And everybody was kind of like waiting for Spider-Man, like, oh, is it going to do it? And, Shang-Chi made a decent amount of money, but it topped out at just like $400 million at the box office worldwide. It did not crack. I don't think it cracked $100 million on its opening. Neither did Black Widow. Neither did Time to Die, the James Bond film. We had a lot of big movies that otherwise would have done well. So everybody was thinking, is this movie going to do well? Boy, did it do well. I mean, it didn't do well just by pandemic standards, but Spider-Man blew the doors off. It was huge. $253 million worldwide. I think it's around close to $600 million in its opening weekend. So I just got to ask you, Jake, since Spider-Man is one of your favorite characters, one of your favorite series, what is it about this movie that made it explode in such a way?
Well, all the films have had their fandoms. Obviously the first Spider-Man film, the Sam Raimi Trilogy, was a huge hit. And depending on who you ask, like I love all of them. I think even 3 has its moments, but definitely it's the weakest of the bunch. And then they tried really hard with the Andrew Garfield, and I do think there is some good in those films. But then I think most people agree that once they got the Tom Holland Spider-Man, it just blew the doors off the character, and everybody loved this series going forward. And then to have the teaser trailers come out where they're bringing into the multiverse and showing villains from the past films, it just blew everyone's mind. Like, holy crap, they're actually doing this. They're gonna, I think that the animated Into the Multiverse film definitely paved the way for this to happen with what they did in that. So yeah, just as me as a big fan, of course, just wow, I could not believe that this is the next Spider-Man film we're getting. And obviously we'll get into it, but yeah, I was so excited to see this movie. And I was very happy with it. I loved it. I've only seen it once so far, but I plan to see it a couple more times for sure.
Yep, I'm going to see it tomorrow. Luke, you guys have seen it twice, right?
Twice within a week. So Thursday and today, Tuesday.
And I'm saying it's for my second time tomorrow. I saw, full disclosure, the first time I saw it was like 2 months ago. And so a lot of what I saw, I'm going to be talking with you guys about it and seeing if it kind of held up and if that was still a movie. By the way, for those of you watching,
puppets in it.
So for those of you listening or watching, we will be filled with spoilers tonight. We haven't just started the spoilers yet, but we're going to. It's impossible to discuss this film without talking about the big surprises. And although it's not the big surprises, everybody kind of was assuming some stuff would happen or wouldn't happen. So when we talk about it, most people are like, oh yeah, that's good. I thought that was going to happen. But anyways, but if you don't want to hear any spoilers, tell you what, we give you 10 seconds before we start talking spoilers. But before we do, Cheeseman, you guys have gone twice. Is it twice as your entire big family, or why twice?
Different parts of the face. So like the first one was with Austin here, his cousin Jackson, and my dad. So it was just four of us kind of the first time. And then Austin's, like the younger kids, his dad, and some of his other cousins and a couple other friends went. So this was a bigger group that went. Like we almost didn't go, but then we're like at the theater and they're like, well, do you guys want to go see it again? Okay. So we went again, and it held up again the second time. Of course, like you get the surprises the first time, so that gives that like whoa kind of like moments the first time. But watching it through the second time, it was still very good and enjoyable. Did you guys
have a good crowd? Were they like very responsive with the surprises and stuff?
I would say not as good as the first time. On the first night, like we really had a lot of like big response where people, oh my gosh, like all that. Like it felt like you were really getting the responses. This one, you did get a little bit, but it wasn't as big as the first one. I know Austin got annoyed, I guess.
I got so annoyed.
You got annoyed at what?
He had some fan people, but they were kind of talking throughout the whole thing. But I kind of got excited. I'm like, they were like nerds about it, and like they were getting excited, so I could kind of tune it out. Like, oh, these people are loving the film. This is why we go to theater. But a lot of people got distracted and were shushing these people because these two ladies kept talking.
It wasn't even during like the big eventful parts. It'd be like in the middle of the story where nothing's really happening, and then they just start talking about the movie. I'm like, guys.
Oh yeah. That's annoying. Yeah.
Garfield's lines because they just kept talking
because of his rage. We basically had a podcast behind us and commentary during the whole movie.
Were they live streaming?
They could have been. People actually did. I think I did see some people pull their phones out a couple of times. I thought about it, but I'm like, nah, I'm not going to be that guy. Not going to be that guy. Nuh-uh.
Well, let me, Austin, real quick, give us your 1 minute non-spoilery review of the film, and then we're going to jump right into spoilers after that.
Oh. Okay,
come on.
It's gonna be hard not to spoil anything. I really liked it, to be honest. I kind of set low expectations because the hype for it was so big. I'm like, there's no way it's gonna deliver, and then it did deliver on all those plus more. So I was really happy about that. I mean, there would be one or two things I kind of wish happened in it, but then they'd add like three things I didn't even think of that were just mind blowing and awesome. So really appreciative of that.
Yeah. All right.
And to add to that, I would just say, like, yeah, I was surprised kind of how big this movie was, because it's like you have something like Endgame happen. It's like, how will they ever top this? And they're not going to. But this really had a lot of nuggets of stuff. They're like, oh my gosh, this like really kind of like pleased the audience in a way that, you know, you're not expecting to get a lot from these like Marvel movies. And I don't know if they'll keep doing kind of the multiverse stuff of existing kind of content, as you've seen with the villains. Non-spoiler yet, some of the villains from the other films came in, which is kind of a rare thing. I know DC's maybe doing a little bit of that, but this was a big thing they did.
Yeah, I think this is the final. I think this film may have been, it's a possibility, except for contract talks, it may have been Peter Parker's final adventure with the MCU, which I think is what it was intended to be. He is on contract to appear in one more Marvel film. So I don't know where that's going to be or how they're going to do that. But I know that the whole plan for these films, and we are getting into a little bit of, what's that?
What are you talking? Isn't there a trilogy of films? Are you?
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here.
You know more than we do, I guess.
But there's a chance that this was the final one, and there's a chance that this is just kickstarting a new trilogy, especially with the Tom Holland's being a little bit cagey about it, saying that if they do more Spider-Man films, he wants it to be more grown up. And this film, and what you were talking about, Jake, the thing that's interesting to know is like the first two films of this trilogy, Homecoming and then
Far From Home. Those were very, very happy-go-lucky Disney versions of Spider-Man. This one pushed Spider-Man closer to the Sony versions of, the two previous incarnations with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were much darker, kind of more adult versions of the Spider-Man. And the comic books, Spider-Man is always sad. Is always not sad, but he's always alone. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he is not this guy that's rubbing elbows with the Avengers all the time. He sometimes is, but he is more of a solitary character, and it looks like they might be going that direction. But anyways, let's do this first. Let's whoever wants to jump in, let's just go ahead and start talking spoilers. Let's start at the beginning of this film. And what is it that happened? Let's just give a little rundown of what happened in this film. Who wants to do that for us?
Jake?
From the beginning of the film?
Just kind of a quick
basic summary.
Just kind of set up what the film was about.
It picks up right where Far From Home ends, which is Mysterio revealing to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So it starts off right then with everyone's reaction and people, he's already like on the street and people are swarming him, taking pictures of him, and then they're all, accusing him of things and doing all that bull crap where like, he tries to get away and that woman's like, Spider-Man hit me. He hit me. And so, it becomes like this whole thing. But then big surprise that, for a lot of people, it was kind of hinted at rumors, but they're doing a crossover now with the Netflix MCU. So early on in the film, they say they need to get a lawyer, and they get a lawyer, and it's Matt Murdock.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. Daredevil. That got almost one of the biggest reactions from the crowd when I saw it. Once you saw him put the cane down, and everyone's just like, "Oh crap!" Like,
and can you pause right there? In the very same week, what other Daredevil character was revealed somewhere?
Kingpin in Hawkeye.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about your perfect timing of Marvel's synergy right there. In Hawkeye, Kingpin is revealed to be the big bad that they're fighting against. Right. So that's going to happen next week. So, anyways, keep going.
So, anyways, that was the big first big surprise of the film, and then it just goes on to show what would happen to Peter Parker and those his family members and loved ones who know his secret, and how the world knowing who he is affects their lives, and it becomes a problem with all the controversy where they can't get into MIT because they're like him and his friends are involved with Spider-Man. So then it's really just everything is going really bad. So then Peter decides if there's one person you could contact to maybe help with everything. And this is all in the trailers and stuff. You see, he contacts Doctor Strange and says, is there some kind of way we could change things? You could go back in time and fix this. And he's like, I can't, I don't have the time stone anymore after they went back and got all the stones for the gauntlet. But he discovers there is a way that they can make that everyone in the world will forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. and it doesn't make Spider-Man not exist. It's just that people don't know that he is Spider-Man. So then as Doctor Strange is casting the spell, Peter keeps having all these second thoughts like, well, no, MJ needs to know, and my friend Ned needs to know, and Aunt May and stuff. And then because he keeps distracting Doctor Strange, he causes this, big rift in the spell, and it cracks the universe or whatever, and brings in characters of all the people who know.
It cracks open the multiverse.
Yeah, where everyone who knows who Peter Parker is Spider-Man comes into the world. So it's not a surprise because you saw in the trailers, you see villains from the previous Sony films, Doc Ock and Green Goblin and Electro and Lizard and who else? The Sandman.
Electro? Did you say him?
Electro, yeah. And
played by the same characters who played them in the previous non-Disney movies.
Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing that, obviously was a thing to bring the fans in. But yeah, the big surprise for a lot of people was that it not only brought over the villains from the previous Spider-Man films, but also brought over the other Peter Parkers. So you get Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and the Andrew Garfield Peter Parker coming in.
All right, let's stop right there. What was the reaction when they appeared on screen in the audience?
People went nuts. Yeah. That's all. Yeah.
What about you guys, Cheeseman and Austin?
It was crazy.
Yeah, people at first, the people behind us are like, "That's Tommy! That's Tommy!" And then it ended up being Andrew Garfield, but
I could tell
people went crazy on each one.
I could tell that was him because I could tell that was Andrew Garfield because you can see he's like in the hole, he's like in the alleyway, and he sees him. But you see the Spider-Man costume, he has like the much bigger eyes, which is what he had in the second Amazing Spider-Man. They actually went more like the 1990s style comic where he has like the bigger, wide open eyes before they had him do like the moving, eyes or whatever. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh crap, that's Andrew Garfield's Spidey." Yeah. So that was a thing that a lot of fans were debating about. Because how did this all start? Was it because of like paparazzi stuff that people saw them on set back in the day? Is that what it was?
Well, no. What are you talking about? The danger that they were facing?
The fact that,
like in real life, people knowing they were like cast in this are going to make an appearance.
Yeah, it seemed like it had been a rumor for a long time, but they were seen on set or something like that,
But yeah, they were seen on set, and the thing is crazy. For about a month or two now, Tom Holland's been having the whole I promise you, they're not in the movie. Believe me. Why won't you people believe me? We're like, nobody believes you. So it's been the world's worst kept secret, but it is still a secret, and it is still cool. And the whole idea that the multiverse opened up, and we got all these characters from 20 years of Spider-Man, basically.
Yeah,
I just thought whoever came up with this idea, this was such an unusually but really satisfying idea. I mean, it would have. How many main characters do we have? We 3 Spider-Man, like 4 or 5, we 5 villains, May, Lucky, and then the Zendaya, MJ, and then his friend I forgot. There's so many
characters. There's 6 that kind of villain-ish. Well, what would you say? Like there was a 6th character that was shown at the end scene that got brought in. That
was
the end credit scene.
Yeah,
we'll talk about those in a second.
Which actually tied to their last movie, which
correct.
Austin showed me because I didn't see that movie yet, but I saw the end scene.
But you'll notice it did not tie to their last. It didn't tie to their last person playing that character, though.
So, do you guys remember in the second Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man in the post-credit scene, they kind of hinted that they were going to do the Sinister Six?
Yep. Because
you had Rhino, and then they had Green Goblin, and then they had Vulture, and this was before the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Right.
The whole idea they had. So as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, oh, they're going to do their own version of the Sinister Six. So I'm counting the villains. I'm like, wait, that's only 5. So I was expecting something to happen at the end and have like the 6th villain,
That's what I think they did have 5, and then maybe the end credit scene was the 6th, like what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So some people I heard somebody say, I think our friend Coy, I listened to his review of the movie, and he said what you'll notice though is like Tom Hardy though stays with Sony. Where wait, is that what it is? I forgot what it was. Like Tom Hardy's not, because Tom Hardy is Sony. I don't know what Coy was saying. I'll have to go back.
Venom, you mean like Tom Hardy Venom?
Yeah, like the black, but something about the black Spider-Man outfit. Something might be coming over to the MCU.
Yeah,
but they can't take Tom Hardy to the MCU, but they can take the black Spider-Man. They can take the symbiote over to
Sony. Sony has their own thing going now because they have the Venom franchise,
the Spider-Verse,
yeah, and then they have Morbius, which is coming out. Which in the trailer you see Michael Keaton in that, Vulture, and they reference Venom in like the San Francisco, incident or something like that. So that's what I was thinking. They're going to have this kind of like dark universe, like a villain thing, Venom, Morbius, and then wasn't there talk about doing like Craven or something?
Yeah. That's it. Wait, apparently he was seen in some movie, like where was he? Where did we? He's the guy with the he's like the mane.
Yeah, he's like the hunter guy with like the tiger or whatever lion mane.
Somebody said he was seen. So I don't know where they were. Somewhere.
I wonder if they showed him when the multiverse split open, because there were some figures that
you could see. I noticed watching that you could see the outline of like Rhino, which is like a famous Spider-Man villain, but they did a version of him in the second Garfield movie, but they had it instead of it being a guy in like an armored out. They made it like a big robotic looking transformer thing that Paul Giamatti was.
No,
that was one of the funniest lines in the movie when they're talking about the three Peters are talking about, like what's the craziest villain you ever fought and stuff. And Tobey Maguire's like, I fought this weird black alien ooze or something, and then Andrew Garfield's like, I fought this Russian guy in a big rhino outfit.
All right. Well,
kind of with that, like it was really cool how they made like references to like and made fun of themselves. Like they were kind of like knowing of even like him, like, oh, my back or something like that, which is a big thing in the Tobey Maguire thing. I wrote
my own scene for the movie in my head. I made my own little version of a fan fiction. I said this would be so great if they would have done this in the movie. And the scene where the three Peters are in the lab and they're working on making the serums or whatever to turn the villains back to normal. Like how funny would it have been if like, I don't know, Ned or someone was like, oh man, this is too stressful. I can't do this. We got to listen to some music or something, and put the radio on. And then all of a sudden, as he's working, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man starts like dancing and starts doing like the finger guns and stuff.
Man, they should have done that.
Dance, and then he like looks over, and then the other two Peters are looking at him like, "What are you doing? Like, what is that?" Like, what?
Dancing. Yeah,
I thought like that would have been so good. That would have got like the best reaction to call out the scene that most people goof on about Spider-Man 3 the most is when he's walking down the street dancing and like shooting the fingers at people and stuff.
It's so weird. It's almost like that's almost one of the only parts of Spider-Man 3 I liked. No, I liked it. I guess it was okay, but it was okay.
My biggest problem with Spider-Man 3, and I think it's Sam Raimi admits too, that the Venom character, they did not do him justice at all in that film.
No, he was only in it for like 5 minutes.
Right. And it's because if you look back in the old production art and stuff, they originally were going to have Ben Kingsley as the Vulture in that movie. It was going to be the Vulture and Sandman and the new Goblin. But the guy at Marvel, Avi Arad or whatever, he was like, no, you have to do Venom because he's such a popular character and people want to see this character.
Yep.
And Sam Raimi, excuse me, he grew up in the 60s with the comics, so Venom wasn't, that happened to like the late 80s or early 90s. And he's like, I don't even know who this character is. So he was kind of like put upon to put him in that movie. So that's the biggest problem I feel with Spider-Man 3 is that they overdid the characters. They had too many villains and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And this movie could have been that way too, because it had so many villains, so many Spider-Men, so many everything. Luke, let me ask you, the biggest part about this movie is all three Spider-Men from the three different franchises. How well did that work in your opinion?
I think it worked amazing. Like they had a good mix of like humor where they're kind of making fun and making references, but then there was also a lot of heart of kind of the difficult moments that they all went through and kind of coming together. And I really like the Tobey Maguire character more in this one than I have in any of his other ones. Just not to be mean, but he was kind of obnoxious at times with the way, the character was played or whatever. But I really like this more kind of this version of him, the Tobey Maguire one.
He played him way less dorky than how he did in the other movies. Like
he was like the cool uncle.
Yeah. He was what do you call him, the cool youth pastor or something?
That got laughs both times in the theater. The way like they were like the cool youth pastors, the way they were joking about him dressing. But I really liked how they did it so well, and then them working together to create the serums, and then even just the banter between them, especially the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire versions, the kind of almost like the brothership that they had, and kind of wishing, they even said like, I would always wish I had a brother. And they kind of very quickly, in such a short time developed this kind of like bond that kind of worked and stuff. And that's really what, this movie had so much like humor, so much action, and so much heart all mixed in, where it's like, you could almost feel like every emotion doing it. And they did such a good job of like picking different parts from all their movies and different things for them to reference and all that. It was like, that would be a really hard thing to do as a writer, but I think they really did a good job.
Well, speaking about heart, perhaps they had a couple of moments, 3 moments in particular, that were wow type completion of story arc moments from all 3 Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. He saved MJ in this exactly the way he could not save Gwen in his film. Remember how that was such a full circle moment of like, he was not able. He cracked her neck at Gwen when he was trying to save her in his film, but in this one, he was the one who saved MJ, and so it's almost like he got redemption in this film. Toby's,
which I wish they would have slowed down that scene just a tad, because like it happened so quick, like you couldn't quite soak in the emotion and what it all meant, because then it kind of took a minute. Like, why is he so emotional about this? Know from knowledge, but just to add a little more reference for people that maybe have not have seen it, I wish they could have done like a flash of her falling or do something to kind of reference that emotional thing he went through and how this was redeeming to him.
Yeah, if they would have had him jumping in, and then like it shows like his memory, like a flash of Gwen falling or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube will do it.
YouTube will do it. Yeah, this movie's budget was probably maxed out. They couldn't afford one more big name actor in there, Emma Stone. What about for Toby's character? Did you see how he got his redemption? In his movie, he actually killed Green Goblin, right?
No, he didn't. Goblin killed himself.
I'm sorry?
I rewatched a bunch of them. Green Goblin, with his little like hoverboard thing.
His glider.
He accidentally stabbed, because he was trying to kill Peter, but his spidey sense, like he moved out of the way and he ended up killing himself through his
That's right. But in this one, Toby saved William Dafoe's Green Goblin by stopping
holding the actual thing that killed him, in his own movie, which was interesting.
So that was kind of a subtle thing that the writers and the director put in there to say, Toby Williams. I went to high school with Toby Williams. Toby saved William Dafoe's Green Goblin. But what about Tom Holland? He just, by the end of the movie, he just got a chance to be Spider-Man again. He was no longer the universe-saving Avenger. He returned back to being Spider-Man. It was his story came full circle.
They also finally gave him that big scene of loss.
Yep.
By losing Aunt May.
Yep.
Because did they ever mention Uncle Ben in his previous movies?
I don't think so.
The only thing
What If?
They did, okay. The only thing I remember from the Spider-Man movies, and it's such a blink and you miss it thing, but I think Kevin Smith talked about it on one of his reviews or something, is that in Far From Home, when he's packing for the trip, he pulls out a briefcase and there's initials on the briefcase that says BP for Ben Parker. So then Kevin Smith was like, "That's his uncle's briefcase or something."
Okay.
Yeah,
but
they never.
In the Andrew Garfield one.
What's that?
They put a big emphasis on the briefcase in the Andrew Garfield ones. I've been watching those recently, and
with his dad,
show that.
With Peter's dad,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing is, but I think you're right. Like we saw Uncle Ben get killed in the Tobey Maguire films, so we didn't see him get killed in the Andrew Garfield films or the Tom Holland films, and that is a big deal. Like so now, Andrew's Spider-Man lost Gwen, Tobey's lost Uncle Ben, and now Tom's Spider-Man lost May. A scene which I hated. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's parts of this movie I'm like, I'm kind of getting tired of. I just call it lazy writing today. That the only way we care about characters is to kill people off. That's the only thing that people care about these days. But that being said, I understand it. I understand that Spider-Man has to be. He's like a man of sorrow. He's not a guy who's happy-go-lucky. This returns Spider-Man back to his roots. Anyways, let's keep going a little bit. What did you guys think about the big death scene?
Of Aunt May.
I
was very when it was going when the scene's happening, I'm very uneasy because there's the Green Goblin throws a pumpkin bomb, explodes, and then they both get up, but she's very visibly shaken, and you can tell something's not right. But then after a little bit of them talking, I'm just like, oh no, she's hurt real bad or something. Mm-hmm. You just got a bad feeling of it. So it wasn't like a total shock, but I remember just being like, are they messing with us? Are they gonna have her? And then as soon as she falls down, you're like, yep, here it is. So, yeah. But yeah, it was a tough scene. The people were very, there's a girl in the row right in front of us who several times in the movie was just like losing it, like bawling. And that was the one scene. The scene with Andrew Garfield and catching MJ, that scene and stuff like that. So there were people who were really moved by this movie.
Yeah,
and they do a really good job with making this a much deeper, more serious Spider-Man than the previous two, which were just such a fun kind of more goofy comic booky film.
Austin, what about you? I mean, how did that scene sit with you? What do you think?
Yeah, I like the way they did it, how they made it kind of slow and in shock. Most of the deaths you see with Tom Holland involved, like when he dissipated in the Infinity War, and then when Tony Stark died, he's very in denial, almost kind of say. So I like the way they he treats it. He treats it more like a kid. So that was really cool. And it seems like almost he's learned. So he didn't seem as hurt as he was. And Tony Stark, he seemed almost obviously it was horrible for him, but he seemed almost used to it.
Yeah. No, it's a terrible thing to get used to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it quite got used to it. I mean, it was a very emotional, you could really feel the emotion in the room. With a lot of superhero movies, there's these heavy scenes, but this, you could really feel the weightiness of that scene in particular. Because we've been on this journey for two other films with this Aunt May, and then you've really kind of liked her.
More films than that.
Yeah, more than that, but to go kind of through that, you really felt the emotion, and really felt those kind of heartstrings, and the way they dealt with it too, it didn't feel over scripted the things that they were saying or what she was saying or how he was responding. No, I'm here. It felt like how somebody would really respond as if it happened. And it didn't feel too Hollywood, and how people deal with grief and real emotion or these things happening.
They didn't over sentimentalize it, which is yeah. And
they didn't always say the right, because you don't always say the right thing during these things. Or, oh, I'm just fine. Oh, I'm just gonna say, you just say more casual things, where movies try to make it no, someone's not really going to say that after they get shot or different things. But this really felt like that, the weightiness.
Well, she did say something there. What were her parting words to Peter that were not normal dying words, but the first time we have heard this famous line in this trilogy of films?
It's actually the first time they say it since the Sam Raimi movie, because I don't think they ever said it.
Okay.
They never said it in. You're talking about with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
They did. I don't think they ever said it in the Andrew Garfield, but they said something kind of similar. And I remember you ever seen those YouTube videos, the animated things, like how it should have ended or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those like joke things. And then I think they did one of those where it's like how the Amazing Spider-Man should have gone, and it's like, remember, Peter, you're responsible. So and he's like, are you trying to tell me with great power comes great responsibility? No, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm just saying because they're trying to make it different or whatever.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I think it was necessary. If I had to knock this film one time for only one thing, it's that, this movie, every movie has the 3 acts. The third act was overwhelmingly heavy to the point of I left the theater thinking, not like that's a great film, which I did. I really did think it was a very well done film. I left the theater thinking, man, I can't wait till I finally see a superhero movie that isn't just sad all the way through. Shang-Chi was one of those. I like Shang-Chi, but I don't know. I'm just getting tired of like anytime Marvel. It's just the Marvel films. All the Marvel films of late just end with a funeral, like Black Widow, Endgame, the Infinity War ended with the deaths, and we're all like everything just has been so heavy. And I know we have people to say, well, you have to have high stakes for it to be a good film, and I get that. And I'm not saying that we should not have done this, but the thing that happened at the end of the film when everybody forgot who Peter Parker was, this could have, I don't know. I guess we needed the death of Aunt May was the catalyst that Peter needed to ask Doctor Strange to cause everybody to forget him. And that's the only way he could protect everybody. So what we get at the end of this film, nobody knows who Peter is. Nobody. And I tell you, one of the good, even though I wasn't a fan of that aspect of the film. I just was not, of the death of May. Everyone forgetting him, that's one thing. I think that was clever and maybe needed, but the death of Aunt May I thought was cheap. And that's just
I disagree.
that's fine. We can disagree on it.
But I'll tell you why. So like when you go through and you watch it, so I've seen like the finished cut twice now. And watching the first time, yeah, like it felt like, oh, did that really need to happen? That was such a heavy thing. But when you watch it again the second time, you watch kind of how she acts or how she treats, Norman, like in this place, and that she kind of plants these kind of nuggets because you're kind of like, well, really, like, should he just let everybody go back and have their fate, whatever? Like, that just seemed kind of ridiculous to let the villains like live, and then she dies as a result, and the world gets kind of somewhat destroyed and all that. But going back through the second time, you really just see like, wow, this is such like a weird way to like think of these villains, because it's like a lot of this stuff like accidentally kind of happened to them. They were good people. Then these things, and it almost makes you think of like any villain as superhero, and the redemptive thing, and then having her die, and like Peter having to kind of like the other Spider-Man kind of, you don't want to be like us. And it was, it did become a necessary thing when you watch it the second time. You're like, it adds so much more to him trying to redeem when it's somebody that hurt you so bad. Like you hear those stories about people like in other countries that like, you killed my parents on like a mission trip or something, and then they go reach out to this community, and then they end up helping the people that like murdered their own parent. Like it's just beyond forgiveness of what you could ever like humanly think is possible. But this kind of did that by him not killing Norman, who killed like Aunt May, and then kind of helping heal him in the process.
I love how they joke about how, a lot of the becoming villains are accidents. He's like, I fell into a vat of electric eels. He's like, I fell into a sand thing. Like, you got to watch where you fall, I guess. Or something.
No, and I understand that. I'm not gonna argue that point with you. It's just a point of contention I have with, I think, a lot of movies. And I know it happens. Not all movies end happy, and especially Spider-Man.
I honestly thought when it happened, I was like, wow, this is really crazy and real heavy. But in the back of my head, I'm like, well, Doctor Strange is gonna fix it. He's gonna turn things around, and she'll be back at the end of the movie. But then
Yeah.
as it's going on, I'm like, yeah, probably not. I just thought, I thought there was gonna be something happen. Like, oh yeah, I'll fix this.
Well, the reason it couldn't happen is because the three Spider-Men, when they get together and have the conversation on the roof, which, again, there's only two things that I knocked down in this movie. It was the Aunt May scene, which was necessary. I understand it, and it was a necessary thing. I still didn't like it. But the other thing I didn't like was the three Spider-Men talking on the roof. And it might have been my version of the movie. I saw it 2 months ago. That scene went on for almost 10 minutes when I was watching it, and they were just sad and mopey and talking for 10 minutes. I almost wanted to say, "Can you please end this scene? It's going on for so long."
It was hilarious.
It
took the sad part of Aunt May because that was Act 2, and then this was kind of going into like the Act 3 kind of thing.
No, you're talking. Jim's talking about when they go find Peter on the roof. And
the sad scene.
Oh, that part.
Yeah, but it wasn't
that long.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
Okay, good, because I saw
Luke's talking about later when they were like all goofing around.
Yeah.
The scene I saw, they were still sitting. They weren't really on a roof. They were in front of a green screen talking, and it was a long scene. And I was like, because I saw before the special effects we put it in, and so it was just such a long scene. And I was like, that was one of my comments to the directors was like, you've got to fix this scene. It pulled me right out of the movie. So I'm glad to know that I'm seeing it tomorrow, so I'll have a better opinion tomorrow. So some of my views may not be right on course. All right. I have a couple questions for you guys though. Why did everyone need to forget who Peter Parker is rather than just forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Why'd they have to forget that Peter Parker exists? Why couldn't they just change the Spider? Why couldn't they just forget Spider-Man? I don't get that part. What do you think?
Austin, any theories? Give you the hard question.
I don't know. I'm sure there's an answer to that. Here's another question. Why did Doctor Strange agree to do this? Was this the bad Doctor Strange from the What If series? Because this seems like a massive blunder on Doctor Strange's part that he would do this, and he messed up so grand.
So when you saw the movie originally 2 months ago, obviously, did you have any after credit scenes or anything? So you didn't have anything? Okay. So they have a mid credit scene with Venom, we already talked about. But then after credits, they had a teaser for the new Doctor Strange movie.
Right.
And it's basically them being like, you didn't think that you wouldn't have consequences from all this. So it's basically him picking up the mess and showing all this crazy stuff that happened because of that. But it was interesting. It's funny that they talk about him using those kind of spells before for other reasons or whatever. Remember when he says something to Wong? He's like, yeah, remember this thing? And he's like, no, I don't remember that. He's like, yeah, exactly. Because like they were doing stuff like
it was just kind of a playful spell. It wasn't like as serious. It was more like just kind of like Men in Black. I think he was laser thing in your face.
I think he also didn't expect Peter to keep doing that. If he was going to just come in and say, can you do this? And he'll be like, yeah, I can do that. But then as he's doing it, Peter's like, oh yeah, and this and this and this. And he's just like, okay.
I don't know.
Remember?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not buying it. One of the reasons the movie doesn't completely work for me because I don't buy that Doctor Strange ever would have done this. This is just too risky of a spell to do. Just because,
he's probably a Skrull or whatever.
Well, I'm wondering if we'll find out later because I do know that the next movie is the ultimate ripping apart of the multiverse with Wanda, him. The character at the end of Loki, the timekeeper guy, he's going to be part of it. And they have one other character. I forgot who that was. It was all the characters that were released accidentally, Jake, on the toys, the action figure box. Yeah. Anyways, did the spell that he cast, did it apply to all the Peter Parkers or did Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker return home to Kirsten Dunst's MJ only for her not to recognize him? Is it all of them?
No, just his.
Okay.
But that's the thing, too, we didn't discuss yet. Did it really work? Because he goes back to try to convince MJ and Ned, try to talk to them and make them remember. And he never says anything that would make them think anything differently. But there's a scene where he leaves and she like stares for a second. She's like thinking like, huh, like weird. Like, like she knows something, but it's not all the way there. So it's like maybe there's fragments of a memory still in there. It's like she realized that she knows him, but doesn't have a memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he never had a scene with Ned at the end. He just saw him and walked away. But when they were talking, then as he walks out, she's like, oh, weird,
So like when Peter shows back up to school the next Monday, do people have a different memory of him? This is a kid that I've known all year, or is it just like, who's this kid just all of a sudden shows up? I've never known him. Luke has an idea.
Something I noticed watching the second time was when he moves into his apartment at the end, he set a book down which was it said GED. So like I don't think there's any memory that he graduated high school. So he's kind of almost like starting from scratch in a way of like his teachers don't remember him, like people. So he's having to get his GED and kind of go from there for college, I think.
I was more upset the fact at the end when he was at May's grave and Happy didn't know who he was.
Oh, I love that scene.
Yeah, that got a big reaction when you see him, then you're so used to them like always like going back and forth and talking and stuff, and then he's like, so how did you know her? And everyone's like, oh man, yeah, he doesn't know who he is.
But for people who know Spider-Man, they were waiting. I act like I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I am, but I'm not an expert. But the thing about Spider-Man, and anytime he gets a father figure, that father figure is removed, is usually killed. Uncle Ben, Tony Stark, and the fact that he started buddying up with Lucky, people started talking about how they thought, the fact that he's getting close to Lucky means that Lucky must be on his last leg. So this is the thing I liked about it. This is a way to remove Lucky as a father figure with. I keep on saying happy, happy go lucky. It's a way to remove Happy without killing.
You're getting Hawkeye in your mind too much because the dog is named Lucky. Be named Lucky.
Man, I am loving Hawkeye. But anyways, so yeah, that's what I think. That's what it is. Is that this was a good way to remove Happy from being the father figure without killing him, which I like.
You did mention earlier about the other two, because at the end of the movie. Doctor Strange has the only way to fix things is to have everyone forget about him, and then that sets everything back into their normal places. So then the two other Peters from the other universes return to their universe, and I thought that would have been such a cherry on top if you would have shown Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker rematerialize like in an apartment or something, and then have Kirsten Dunst walk in like, hey, what's going on, Tiger? What or something like that. Just like
Norman's coming over for dinner.
Yeah. They could have done that, and then like show things like they fix things or whatever.
Yeah.
Have the Andrew Garfield go back and see, Sally Field, Aunt May or something.
Oh, I missed that Aunt May.
Can I say something about Norman?
Yeah.
I really liked how they did Green Goblin in this one. So like, because I watched it one time back on Thursday. So I've been kind of rewatching some of the Spider-Mans before and after it. But as you can see here, the Green Goblin with the big mask on, he felt more like a Power Rangers kind of villain. The way when he was in costume, when he was like on his hover device, like he was good on that. But then when it was like, all right, Spider-Man, and then like leaning on him and doing it just felt cheesy. So the fact that they broke the mask in this and did more of the traditional with the hood up, like Willem Dafoe is such a great actor and so good with like villainous type characters. I really like this version. Like it totally like redeemed that. And like, I'm glad he got another shot at because he really nailed it.
That was really cool. They did do some redesigns on these villains. Like Electro looks different now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that picture right there is from the Amazing Spider-Man 2,
right,
2014. But now
these are the older ones, yeah.
So that he does get like a costume makeover. And an interesting one was Sandman. What's the actor? Thomas Hayden
Church.
Oh, Jim knows.
So most of the movie, it's him in the sand form, but he's not in his human form. He's like a sand. Jim, was that how you saw it? Was he like that, or was he a human?
Yeah, it was kind of weird saying it was like like mechanical looking stuff.
So he's the Sandman, but he's not. He's like in the weird in between state most of the movie. So as I'm watching it, I was like, oh, could they not get Thomas Hayden Church to come back? So then they're kind of cheating and having him be like more distorted. But then at the end, he does come back to his regular,
kind of like Back to the Future Part 2.
Right. Yeah. Seriously, I was like, did they just get some guy who sounds like him or something? And they can't show his face fully.
No, I knew by the way he said home. It sounded just like sideways, like I want to go home. Like,
you realize if they would have brought Paul Giamatti's Rhino in that, you would have had a sideways reunion.
I was hoping for that. But
that would have been the best. That makes some great memes.
They could have had them sitting in Happy's apartment drinking wine or something.
Yeah.
No, but let's see. Luke and Austin, before we're going to kind of start wrapping things up, what's your overall take on the film? Spoilers, no spoilers, whatever you think. Where does this fit in all the films?
And there is one more thing I do want to hear Austin talk about. We talked about after too, but
go ahead.
The overall, or do you want this first?
Well, listen,
I want to hear talk about the Venom stuff because he was explaining this really well to me, like how the Venom stuff all tied in. And
cool. Yeah, let's hear it.
So,
yeah. So I was confused by why Venom came, because if only people that knew Peter Parker came to the universe, why was Venom there? Because he didn't know him. Mm-hmm. And then so at first I thought maybe it's the same Venom from the Tobey Maguire, but I highly doubt it. And then the possibility of being from Andrew's universe, but still he wouldn't really know who he is because Venom never showed up. Or it's its own Sony universe. But then in the end scene of Let There Be Carnage, there's a line he says, I actually haven't pulled up so I don't botch it. Venom tells Eddie 80 billion light years of hive knowledge across the universe when he's explaining his power or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So apparently symbiotes have like this hive mind or whatever across several universes. So what one symbiote sees or knows, another symbiote knows.
Oh.
So the symbiote that was in Toby's could have understood and saw that, hey, it's Toby. And just because of that, Venom knows who he is. And that's why he was able to squeak through and get into the universe. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't seen the end credit scene yet, so thanks for explaining it to me so I'll know what's going on when I see it.
Yeah, because you think because unfortunately, I haven't seen the second Venom yet, but you'd think oh, he would have been a bigger part of this, the way they kind of made it seem like, and then they waited all the way till the end scene to actually show him, which is kind of surprising, but that's interesting.
I kept thinking
theory makes a lot of sense.
I kept thinking he was going to show up
at
the Statue of Liberty, because in the trailer you see Doctor Strange they're all coming through, I can't hold them back, because I was like, oh, they're going to have all these villains come in and stuff. I thought Venom would be flying in and stuff, but they did a different
I kept thinking, you know what I thought one of the end credit scenes would be although it doesn't make sense, but it would have been cool, is Miles Morales. I would have loved to see Miles Morales finally show up, but he's not named Peter Parker, so I have a feeling this was about everybody named Peter Parker.
Right. Yeah.
That's why it's not everyone named Spider-Man.
Right.
So that's why we got who we got.
Yeah, and a piece of Venom. Sorry, Jim, spoiler, but
no, go ahead.
A piece of Venom is left behind. So whatever that little fragment was of the, what's it called,
symbiote.
Yeah. So whatever piece of that is probably going to attach to someone and could be the Venom in this universe.
Mick Manhattan, what's up, gents? Good to see you, Mick. And Luke, you know what I think it is also in the Venom movies. Venom is ferocious, but Tom Hardy tries to keep him not a bad guy,
Yeah.
Whereas I think
consider this a villain. Yeah.
I have a feeling he's become a villain now that he's into.
That fragment that was left behind is going to be part, and I think that'll be an actual villain in this.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And just to shift to another thing I really wanted to talk about was, so the part in Rise of Skywalker where C-3PO looks around this is the last time I'm going to see my friends and all that. But then it was something about that didn't work because the characters were such short-lived in his life, where if you had more of a Luke, Han, or Leia at that moment, or all that, or even, I don't even think Chewie was in there. I think it was BB-8 and other stuff, or C-3PO. It just felt so flat or didn't work, where this movie with his friends, since you've been on this journey with them over multiple films, that moment where it's you're not going to remember me and stuff. I felt it so much more in their version than I did in Rise of Skywalker, because they did it I think, so much better than Star Wars did on the erasing of his memory and him not know his friends not knowing him and going in, the restaurant, coffee shop type thing, like at the end, and them not recognizing him and having kind of that moment. I felt like Marvel did such a good job at this.
They did. That was beautiful stuff. So, what do you guys think was the best part? What's the best parts about this movie? What makes it something that you think people are saying is one of the best Marvel Spider-Man movies ever, one of the best superhero movies ever? Coy Jandreau has 19 or 26 Marvel movies. This is now his number one movie.
Yeah, they just did something so genius with like all three Spider-Mans from like different, movies and reboots and bringing in all these villains. I just think it's just like, who would have thought that, like, seeing all these movies that they'd come back later and they'd be in, like, you'd combine, like all your favorite Batmans over the years, and now combining all your Spider-Mans. It's
imagine if Christopher Nolan brought in like Val Kilmer and Michael Keaton coming back in like The Dark Knight or something. That's like what it would be like.
That would be great. I mean, what do you think, Jake? What made this movie sing for you?
Well, it's obviously not as on the scale to me. It's not on the scale as like Infinity War, but when you think it's like a scaled down version of that, because when you think of Infinity War, that was 2018. Mm-hmm. At the time, everyone's reaction was like, wow, they're bringing all these characters that we've seen in separate movies and they're all coming together in one movie. So I do feel like you get a lot of that in this one, but it's, as fans of not only just Marvel and stuff, but just a fan of Spider-Man in general and Spider-Man films, to have that happen, to have all the characters from the different Spider-Man films cross over, is something that, we would like dream about when we were like younger. So I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if they did this? And like now they're actually doing it. It's like, it's crazy, but yeah, I love it.
I thought it was a good film. I really did like it, and those two parts are the only things I didn't like about it. What's really
crazy is that Luke and I were Austin's age when the first Spider-Man came out. It came out in our senior year of high school. With and now what's that?
I'm a year older than that. I'm in college now.
So then it's roughly the same. But then now it's like, it's just come full circle now, where it's like you have the original and then the new, and it's all, I think it's crazy to think.
Yeah, very cool. So we do have to kind of wrap up here quickly because I don't want everybody to stay up too late. But what's ahead? What do you think is ahead? What are your? I have a quote.
Well, you and Austin didn't share your kind of the thing you liked most about it.
Oh, Austin! I want to hear what Austin has to say.
I definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool what they did, because personally, my favorite Spider-Man and just movies in general is the Amazing Spider-Mans with Andrew Garfield, which I know a lot of people disagree with, but I just like the emotions and characters. But I really enjoyed it. So I like seeing the repercussions of what happened with Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing how it like affected him, because you see Andrew in this, and he's kind of like a lot more quiet than he was. And you see how effective that death was. So that was really cool. Also, real quick, I noticed something. I don't know if any of you guys would agree, but do you guys remember when Strange botched the spell the first time, and like there was that single man silhouette in the sky?
I remember seeing. Yeah, like when it cracks open and you see the silhouettes. Was there just one, or was there multiple?
Yeah, there was just one in the first one.
Oh, okay. Do you know who was?
Who else is one person that watches over and deals with multiverses that we've seen so far?
The Watcher?
I think it might be the Watcher personally, because there was only one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
Oh, that's right, because there's not multiple. It would be cool, if they brought the Watcher into the live action portion of the universe. I would love that. Or because I know there's season 2 of What If, and you got the Con guy, the Con kids did a whole after show on that. The Watcher, and is that why you were talking about, Jake? That version of Doctor Strange, the bad Doctor Strange, looks like the Doctor Strange we're going to see in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, they do show him in the trailer. You see like an evil version of Doctor Strange, but we don't know when he, comes to be. If he came from that original botched spell, or if it was something after that or something.
Yeah. Cool.
So-
Yeah, they pulled a low key, like the most dangerous being in the whole world is actually you. Like,
Yeah.
Real cool. And Austin, real quick, is there anything that we missed, the things that you saw that you could point out that maybe that we missed from the film?
The Venom and the Watch were the biggest things I was thinking about, like as I was watching the film, because I was looking for like little Easter eggs or something like that. And those were the biggest things I saw. So
Is this and refresh my memory? Is this the film where the Statue of Liberty had the Captain America shield?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, what's up with that?
and it was back. They were restoring it to the bronze look that it originally was too, before it got kind of more that coppered, turquoise color.
Well, all right.
It didn't keep the shield, so don't worry.
I know.
So we do have an audience question.
Oh, we
for
do.
the
Really?
panel.
Well, let me look. Comments.
Very quickly, we have an Austin can introduce the person asking the question.
So this is my little sister Addie, who's visiting for the holidays.
Hello.
I was curious on how Tobey Maguire is the only one that can generate spider webs through his body.
Good question.
Well, the real reason why they had it in the movie was because the writers were like, I don't think this high school kid could develop the engine, engineer this machinery to shoot the web. So they like just made it organic, so that way they could just, he just makes webs. That's it, Whereas in the other ones, I think they made Peter smarter so that he could like design these things that could shoot the webs. And they make a lot of, jokes about that in the new one. Like, no, we had to make these. We had to design these to shoot. Like, yo, you guys just can't do that? Like, no.
But they didn't explain, like in the movie, they have an explanation for that, right?
I think in the original movie, they were just like, when they were writing it, they were like, I don't think this kid could make these like web shooters.
I never liked it that he squirted spider webs out of his wrists. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Is it that much weirder than just having little sticky things on your fingers and climbing up a wall?
Yeah, I guess not. Wait, I want to ask Eddie, how did you like the movie?
It was really good. I liked it, how they brought all the three Spider-Mans together.
Did you get real sad towards the end?
Yeah, I was a little sad on how everybody forgot who he was.
Yeah.
And stuff.
All right. Well, I
Is
guess
Tom Holland cute or the other Spider-Mans?
Which one? Yeah, which one's your favorite, Addie?
What'd you say?
Which Spider-Man is your favorite?
I like. Well, tough question. Andrew McGarfield was.
Andrew Garfield.
Was good, but I kind of like Tobey Maguire's acting and stuff. And then
The oldest one?
And then Tom Holland would probably be my favorite.
Ah, cool. All right. All right, guys. Hey, Andy, thanks for joining us. This is I appreciate it. I know it's getting late for everybody, but as we wrap up, where does Spider-Man go from here? Where do we think I do have
you didn't see the mid-credit sequence, but we were talking about Eddie Brock is there, but he gets phased back into his universe. And then as the final little teaser, you see, because he's at a bar, and then when he leaves, the camera zooms into the bar, and there's a little bit of the symbiote on the bar. So naturally you're like, okay, well, somehow the symbiote's going to get to Peter, and then we're going to see another version. Like you would just think they're going to do another version of the black suit of the black suited Spider-Man. That version, that's actually from the movie. These are the new Jim is showing the new Hasbro action figures here. So that's the scene. That's the costume that Peter wears. I think it's when he first finds Electro when he's outside. Yeah, but I love also the fact that he taped his phone to his chest.
Yeah,
like
I can't wait to see that cosplay.
FaceTime, whatever. That was really funny. But that's the costume that he wears.
And I'm gonna let you take us through those and just real quick, super quick. But as we go forward, this is the quote that Amy Pascal, she's the producer of the film. She goes, "This is not the last movie that we are going to make with Marvel." She told Fandango. She said this week. "We are getting ready to make the next Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Marvel. We're thinking of this as 3 films, and now we're going to go on to the next 3. This is not the last of the MCU movies. And then she later, like a couple days later, she did say, but it is whatever Holland decides. It's safe to say we probably won't see a new Spider-Man appearance in the MCU for at least a few years. So it's going to be a while. They're putting it to rest for a little bit, but Tom Holland will come back, they think, as Spider-Man. Of course, Tom Holland says he doesn't want to become 30 years old and still playing Spider-Man, a.k.a. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. So
he took a break. He came back,
But within 1 minute, what do you guys think? Where do we go next? I heard what you said.
I think
this symbiote, yeah.
That plus mixing characters from the villain stories, because they already showed that the Vulture is in Morbius. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to get some more fun mixing of that. And also, there was a character I forgot rewatching it in Homecoming. You see a character who is they did do the Shocker in that, but they also showed a character who you're assuming is going to become Scorpion.
Oh yeah.
He has the Scorpion tattoo on his neck, and he meets Vulture in prison, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and they're talking, and then he turns his head and you see the Scorpion tattoo. You're like, "Holy crap, it's a Scorpion!" So hopefully they go that route. It's that one guy, that one actor from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Nacho, that guy.
Oh yeah.
He's the Scorpion supposedly. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. Austin and Luke, what do you guys think?
Go ahead.
You first.
No, you go first. I gotta accumulate.
Yeah. Well, I definitely know we are going Doctor Strange next. We are exploring the multiverse further, which I'm excited about. So it's interesting to think of, like, with this, the possibilities of things. I doubt they'll venture in as much as they did with this. We're taking from the different Spider-Man films, but it also shows kind of anything's possible, and multiverse has a lot of room to explore. So we definitely do know, they're going to be exploring some of this, but it'll be interesting to see how it, goes from film to film or into the streaming, and how they'll be connecting. And especially it'll be interesting to see how they're bringing Daredevil back in, and that Murdoch's character, because they definitely tease that, and if there'll be any connection to, like, the Spider-Man stuff, or where exactly they're going to place Daredevil, beyond into the actual, like, movie stuff, and not just the TV series.
Cool. Austin?
I feel like the next time we're going to see him, I feel like it's going to be something like Ironheart, because doesn't that deal with, like, Iron Man? Yeah, I feel like because Spider-Man is so close to Iron Man, I feel like that's probably going to be the next time we see him.
Young Avengers, maybe?
Young Avengers too. Maybe he's going to be, like, head Young Avenger, so I don't know.
Yeah, he'd be like the Godfather Tony of probably the Young Avengers, since with all the stuff he's been through, and probably being, I don't know. Actually, he's the same age as most of them. Yeah, but an old soul probably.
An old soul. Well, I think that Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, is something that they've been building toward for quite some time. They've been doing it. They've been building towards it in this film. They did it in Shang-Chi. Because did you? By the way, did you notice that Shang-Chi was happening the same time this film was happening? Anybody? When Wong stepped through. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Did you notice?
He has to grab something we have to show before we wrap.
Okay, but did you guys notice that this film was happening at apparently the same time as Shang-Chi? Because that's where Wong was going. That's what he was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So and apparently this movie happened the same time as Hawkeye is happening. Because the snow, it's happening at Christmas time towards the end there with the snow and everything. So I think maybe all these movies are happening right at the same time, which is kind of cool. All right.
Do you want to go through some of these toys?
Yeah.
Quick. One thing we didn't bring up with Ned's character, like him kind of taking on wizard type stuff. I wonder if he'll be part of Doctor Strange, and because he could do a little magic, and I noticed it more in this one that he was saying there's like, some magic or something in his family line. So he has some genetic kind of thing into kind of the, the wizard Doctor Strange type stuff. And then when he told Doctor Strange, he opened a portal, he's like, like he had this kind of like thing of where he could be somehow connected, because I could see Wong kind of like mentoring him, or Strange or something like that. So I feel like Ned will be possibly moving into some of that possibly as well.
That'd be kind of cool. Did we want Jake to go through these real quick before you guys show what you got, or is
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll just say one last thing real quick. My final thought on the film, I loved it. I want everyone to go see it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, definitely check it out. You'll love it. I was reading a review. It was in, I don't think they really got into spoilers, but one of the final lines of the review really hit me, where he just said, like, this is a fantastic achievement for everything the character is and stuff. And he's like, I only wish Stan could be here to see this.
Oh yeah,
because he would have like loved it, you know. So, anyways, awesome. And let's check out some of these cool new collectibles.
There was no Stan cameo in this.
No.
he's dead.
But I heard stuff like rumors that he pre-recorded a ton of them so they could still kind of place him throughout stuff. But yeah, this would have been the first one without him. I think.
The last one, I think the last one that actually had it was
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, yeah.
And that was my favorite one because Captain Marvel stopped and she smiled at him.
And he was reading the script for Mallrats.
Yeah,
because he's in Mallrats.
I love that. That was my favorite of all the cameos. All right, so what Jake's going to zoom us through real quickly here. These are some collectibles.
These are from Hasbro. These are the new Marvel Legends action figures. So these have been out for a little bit, and they couldn't do big spoiler ones, so you just get some very basic characters that we already know of and already seen. So this is the Spider-Man outfit that he gets. I think it's when Doc Ock returns the nanobites back to his outfit, and he gets that new spider on his chest. So
is it this one right here?
Yeah. See how the inside of it's like open, and then go back to the other one.
Okay, let me go back.
See how it's like a solid color. Yeah.
So
yeah, a little difference there.
That's cool.
So
okay.
That's what he wears for the majority of the film.
Right.
And this is the other one. This is his black and gold costume. And like I said, that's the one he wears in the scene where he's finding Electro and they're out by the power lines, and they should have included the little phone to put on his chest. But
wait, let's look up here, see if it's in the box.
Just his hands. And then they have
what's that under the hands though?
So this is the thing that Marvel Legends will do. They have it's called a Build-A-Figure, where they have a piece of another character that once you buy all, you can build another one. So I forget who it is. It's some character from the comics.
Oh,
so
it looks like a bag.
It's like a leg. It's like a big character on the scale of like the Hulk kind of guy.
Oh, geez.
But you can see. So there's J. Jonah Jameson, the new version of it. But you can see in that packaging, he has that character's big arm in there. It's
that arm which goes with this leg.
I should have included the final picture, but if you just look up the new line, you'll see it. It's some character. I don't know what he's from.
So the same actor was in both movies. Since he's a multiverse type character,
J.K. Simmons.
He could look the same but be kind of slightly different in both universes.
Yeah,
right.
J.K. Simmons.
I love the fact that they basically made him the same character, but now he just does like a podcast instead of works for a.
Hello, Amanda. It's so good to see you, Amanda. No, listen. He doesn't do a podcast. Well, he might do a podcast. I think it's like a.
Yeah,
one of those crazy conspiracy radio shows. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let me go back. We're almost done, and here's the final one. This one's my favorite. Look at this.
This is really cool. Doctor Strange. Yeah, you see, he has the head of that Build-A-Figure character. Sorry, I don't know who. But I actually have. If you cut back to me, I actually have. That's the one I have.
Wait, let's do this.
I got that. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
It's really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, it's kind of bright.
Yeah.
The lights bright up, but yeah, it's really well done likeness of him. So he's gonna get a new home on the shelf back here.
Nice.
Well, speaking of, Austin has his own version of that toy as well.
Wait, let's see.
Yeah, you're forgetting the best product of the year. I call it me.
There's
me on Doctor Strange's body. Oh wait, camera focus.
Oh whoa.
Wait, let me see. Whose head is that?
Yeah.
It's like a 3D. What do you call it?
Did you have your head printed
on there? You're lean in with it. Lean your head in. There we go.
Man, that is horrible.
It's still kind of blurry.
Wait. Go a little bit closer to the camera. Oh wait.
Is it like a 3D?
There you go. We see it. How'd you get that made, Austin?
My grandma did it apparently.
So I got a strange text back in October. It's like, what's Austin's favorite Marvel character? And I'm like, I don't know. And then What If was going on. So somehow we got like, Doctor Strange is probably my favorite now. So he texts his uncle, like, Doctor Strange is his favorite. And I had no idea what they're going to do, but they knew somebody who could like do 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. So basically, since a lot of these heads pop off of these figures, they were able to pop the head off and then put Austin's head on. So it's the actual toy, it's just the head was removed and they put Austin's head to kind of fit on there. So
that is the best thing
strange.
That's really cool.
I am strange, but
He'll allow it. I'll allow
that
it.
is. So anyway, stranding Spider-Man in that sad apartment without friends or family may seem like a rather grim fate for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, but for Sony, which has always preferred its Spider-Man a little more tortured, it is a return to form. So for many fans, the true Spider-Man is broke and overwhelmed by his obligations. He's also rather lonely, since every time he reveals his secret identity to someone, that person winds up in grave danger or dead. So this is the true back to form. This is the Spider-Man that we've had for so many years. And even though some people might complain, we miss you too, Amanda. We got to get together over at Casa Vegas sometime soon, my friend. But this is the Spider-Man that we've known for next year is Spider-Man's 60th birthday.
Oh, wow.
He starts in 2022. It's called the entire year at Marvel is called, wait a second, anytime, it's called Beyond Amazing. Get it? Beyond Amazing Spider-Man. They're going beyond Amazing Spider-Man. They're celebrating him all year. It's going to be very cool. 60 years of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the character that brought superheroes. Before Spider-Man was the Fantastic Four, which were scientists. And Spider-Man was a kid, a nervous kid in high school, trying to ask out the pretty girl, didn't know how to do it, got bit by a spider, and ends up saving his neighborhood. That's the Spider-Man we all know and love. And that's the Spider-Man we saw this time, although this Spider-Man did save the universe, but now he's back to saving his neighborhood. My name is Jim Fry. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. You can find me at James D. Fry on Instagram. Jake, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Jacobus System.
All right. Austin and Cheeseman, take us out.
you can follow me at the Con Kids and also my private Instagram, Austin__757.
You can find me at Cheese on Couch on both Instagram and on Twitter and theconguy.com. And yeah, check out our pages, theconguy.com, scareguy.com, and the Con Kids Instagram. We may or may not have a website eventually. We'll see. We like doing some of the social medias for those. And also, I just want to say, I don't need a wizard spell to get a girl to forget who I am. So you don't need a spell always for that. I have a special skill of getting girls to forget me without even having a magic spell.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for listening to The Con Guy Show, the official program of theconguy.com. Find us on the Weeby Geeks Collective or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And now on sci-fi.radio, Saturdays at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, both AM and PM. That's 9 o'clock Greenwich. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi.